What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to another episode of Ben Builds with Joe. We are back on the A6M3 Model 32 and today we are hoping to get a lot of stuff done, ready for paint next episode. Today we're going to focus first on the overall finish of the model. I want to go ahead and sand all this down, clean up some of the seam lines, get this thing ready for primer. I also want to go ahead and drill out the nose guns right here. These have to be drilled out to give them a little bit more excitement, a little more life to them. I also want to go ahead and finish up the propeller. I want to go ahead and paint the rest of the area silver and go ahead and paint the back of the blades black, as we typically have to do. So that will be ready for decals. And then lastly, I want to go ahead and get the drop tank kind of squared away so that next episode or so we can actually mount it to the bottom of the fuselage. Just a little pre-shade and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and dive right on in with our cowling. I want to go ahead and open up these guns using my pin vise. That should be sufficient. Let's get this thing rolling. All right, everybody, looking good there. We're going to go ahead and work on the cowl just a little bit. We have some parts and pieces I want to go ahead and install. So we're going to start with the cowling flaps. Now we have two options here. We can install the ones with their open or install the ones that are closed. We're going to go ahead and install the closed cowling flaps. My figuring behind this is, well, there's not a lot of detail in the engine compartment, and if I install them in the open position, I don't know how much you're going to be able to see or not going to be able to see, and I don't want to run the risk of having this big gaping hole in there with no detail whatsoever. So I figure we're just going to close them up and we should be good with that. A couple of swipes with the jeweler file, we should be ready to go ahead and mount these in. Not too bad. Going to get that done and we'll be right back. Now we're going to go ahead and sand everything down and kind of fare it all in. The fit is okay, it's not the greatest, but it's passable. We had a little bit of an issue with the left side of the cowling flaps, but we're okay. We're gonna run some sandpaper, we're gonna run some jeweler files, we're gonna clean this all up. Then I'll probably come back and I'll hit it with about 1500 grit sandpaper to smooth everything out. Went ahead and picked up a couple of things the other day, and one of them was a pack of a bunch of fine grade sandpaper from 1500 up to 7000. So that should work very, very well. We're gonna smooth it all out and get it ready for primer. Now, while working on the cowling, I realized that we have got to do something with the two 7.7mm machine guns that protrude right here in front of the cockpit. So I went ahead and I cut one of them out with my hobby knife, and then we went ahead and took my pin vise with a drill bit in there. We drilled them out, and now I'm just kind of smoothing it out and making sure there aren't any really rough edges or burrs with my round jeweler file. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other one, so we can then replace them with some form of tubing. I've got a couple of ideas for that. So I could do some brass tubing, but I think I'm going to do something a little easier than that. I actually am going to take one of our plastic Q-tips. I'm going to take that center section, I'm going to go ahead and stretch that, hollow it out, and then I'll use that for gun tubing. I think that's going to work just fine. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be passable, has to have some form of an opening so it looks like there's something there, not just a little line of plastic. So I think that's going to be pretty simple, and I think it's going to add a little bit of extra interest right here in the front machine gun area. So that's all looking well and good. As you can see, they're both drilled out. So we'll go ahead and make some off camera, and then we'll throw those in at the last minute. Right now, though, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next section. So you can see that front cowling looks really awesome, attached under the fuselage. So yeah, I'm really happy. So we're going to go ahead and move on to primer now. I want to go ahead and lay down a nice coat of Stynylrez primer. We're going to use the gray color. That should help to kind of even everything out and get it ready for paint. So I've actually created a custom color here. We're going to be using that for the cowling and for the area right behind the cockpit. That requires a blue-black mixture, and we've taken some Tamiya flat black and some Tamiya flat blue. We've mixed them together at about a 1-to-1 ratio, about 50-50, and we've created this. And you really can't see the blue in it, but it's a slight tint, very, very slight. Let's go ahead and load it up in the airbrush and get this moving. Right, I think that looks pretty decent, and man, I gotta tell you, that Stynylrez primer is awesome. I've never tried the gray stuff before, and it actually works really, really well. So we're looking good there. I've gone ahead and moved on to the canopy, and the canopy does not fit very well, to be honest. I was hoping to use the 3-piece canopy so I could go ahead and expose some of my work on the inside of the cockpit. Even though the cockpit isn't that awesome, it's still better than it was, and I'd like to go ahead and kind of show it off a little bit. Moving on to the rear section here of the canopy, I've actually already painted the rear decking there, that blue-black color, and I overcoated it with a little bit of a mixture of flat base and future, just to give it a tiny bit of gloss to it. Nothing too fancy. This should actually glue down though and should protect it. I did have to take the headrest down just a tiny bit as well, but nothing I can't handle. So now let's go ahead and glue that down and see how it looks. Now, of course, we've run into a little bit of an issue here with the center section of the canopy. It just doesn't want to fit. Either it's too far forward or it's too far kicked up in the back. It just does not fit flush there. If we want to get this thing working, we're going to have to do either some surgery here on the canopy part itself, or we're going to go ahead and really have to tack it down with maybe some super glue or something. As you can see, it just does not fit. It's actually too narrow. We need to go ahead and kind of splay that out a bit, but we're going to deal with that a little bit later. So that's going to be a problem. Now for the overall color of the aircraft itself, we actually mixed up a little bit of my custom gray-green color. And again, just like I did on my roof, I used 3 different colors. I used the sky color, a gray, and then I used some yellow green. Of course, I did about 50% of the gray, and then I did 25 and 25 to make an even 100%. So that's actually pretty decent. So that'll be used next time, because right now we need to go ahead and do a little bit of pre-shading. So for my pre-shade, I'm going to be using some NATO black. We're going to trace all the panel lines, and then we'll be pretty decent for next episode when we get to actually put down some paint and get this thing looking sharp. All right, everybody, we are going to be calling it quits for today. We have our panel lines all nicely shaded. Our parts are all ready for paint. So next episode, it's time for paint. We'll be using our custom gray-green color, and we'll just see what trouble we can get into. So until next episode, everybody, you guys know the drill. Go out, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. If you haven't gone over to check out Joe's channel, make sure to stop on by, drop him a like, give him a thumbs up, tell him I say what's up, and we will see you back here next episode of Ben Builds with Joe. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.